It's like our Sesame Street, right? Like everybody knows everyone.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man. I liked how you changed it from networking because networking to me it does feel transactional. It feels like I want something out of my network. To me, you know what I was thinking about? It's like when it doesn't seem to happen as much right now, but when as you're growing up in a community in a neighborhood that you've lived in for a while and everyone is kind of watching out for everyone's kids and everyone knows all the parents know each other on the block. I look at my network like that. Like how can I create a community of folks that I'm just in touch with, but we all know each other and it's going to grow and grow and grow and grow. That's how I kind of picture it.
Are we
Yep.
ready to go?
I am
Yeah.
100%, and I will remember to keep my cursing to a non-existent level.
Oh, you can do whatever. It's labeled as not for kids.
There we go.
Okay, so we have Sean in the room with us this morning. It's morning for us
Yes,
anyway,
good
and
morning, everybody.
I got my coffee. Did you get your coffee?
I already finished my 1 cup, so now I'm on the water.
So we're good to go
Nice.
in any way we go with the fluids. And we have Sean with us. Sean Persaud, am I pronouncing
That
your
is
last name
correct.
correctly?
Yep.
Very excited to have you. Sean and I know each other for a long time. And one of the things that made me reach out to Sean and tell Ofir, hey, we have to chat with him, is that every time I talk with Sean, he will never finish a conversation without saying, hey, when do we meet next time?
Yep.
So what I know about Sean is that he's the master, is the chef of networking, and not networking, it's really building meaningful connections. So that's what we wanted to talk with Sean today about. But first, Sean, if you can introduce yourself to the audience that they can get to
Yeah.
know you a little bit.
So, as Noah said, and thank you very much for having me on here.
Sure.
Noah and I have known each other for several years, but again, name is Sean Persaud. I'll start personal first. I've actually just had my 30th wedding anniversary 2 months ago. So
Ooh,
my wife
Congrats.
Suzanne, thank you. We've been together
yes.
30 years. Actually, sorry, we've been together 35 years, married 30. And I have 3 boys, 25, 22, and 18. The 18-year-old is home from college right now, so we got a big disarray happening. But so that's the family world. Live in Maryland. Life is great. And then professionally, it's been a long journey, long career. Spent about right out of college 16 years at Black and Decker DeWalt, right when DeWalt launched. A lot of cross-functional roles. Then went to Shark Ninja, which is a great phenom right now in terms of how big and successful that company has become and all the categories they're in. I was there about 14 years. Then I went to another company called Thermacell, another company called TTI. So a lot of experience in the consumer durable space. And it's been a while of that.
And also working in really large companies, right? They're all
Yes,
very large
exactly.
companies, which
Yep.
makes building relationships even more complicated, right?
Yeah, but it's also a great opportunity because it's more people, like more people to
Yeah.
interact with, talk, get to know, learn about, and also that get to know you. So it's also a great opportunity for that too.
So Sean, in this entire journey, when is this something that you always kind of had the tendency to build relationship and to maintain relationship, or is it something that you built throughout your journey? Kind of how did it come about?
It's a excellent question because none of it was intentional. It's just I think the first thing for me is just being you. Like whoever you are, like Ophir, whoever you are, or me, whoever I am, I'm very big on just being me. And I think that's always rung true, whether it's at home, whether it's at work. Now, obviously, sometimes you have to dial back a little bit, sometimes you can dial up. But I think it starts with just being you. And the reason I say that is a lot of the connections, a lot of the relationships, a lot of, as we call network, it's just people who know me. And they know, hey, the Sean that I will be in a office with, that we might be in a meeting, is the same Sean that's going to be if we're grabbing breakfast or we're grabbing a beer afterwards. I don't really change a lot, and I think that's a big thing because even as I meet new people and network with them and get to know them, they might show up one way at work and then you realize they're a bit differently. They act a bit different when they're outside of work. Not good or bad. They're just not always their genuine self. So for me, right at Black and Decker, it started with just me being me and showing up how I was. And a lot of senior executives at that time kind of latched on to that. And as they moved on, I moved, they pulled me along with them. And then I got to know more and more people as I did that. So for me, it's just being yourself was the first step.
So I will poke a bit because
Please.
a lot of I will box it, but I feel that a lot of people are afraid to be themselves. They are concerned about being themselves. So what can you say to that? Because there is this all
Yeah.
authenticity movement, yet some people feel it bites them in the dot. So what would you like to say about that?
You know, I agree and I understand that. But Marvin Ellison, who's the CEO of Lowe's, I was watching a speech or something he had given. This was years ago. And one of the things he said, it was advice to young people starting out in their career. And he said, look, your greatest asset is you. And by that I mean you can learn something and you can, start to excel at that, but no one will ever beat you at being yourself. So if you could be yourself and then take your genuine self and incorporate into something you like when it comes to work and a passion, no one's going to beat you because no one can outdo you at being you. And when I heard that, that rang really true because if you could find what's special about you, what you enjoy about yourself, and you have that show up at work, no one can beat you at that because it's unique to you. So I always look at it that way. And if you could pull out what's inside of you that makes you comfortable and have that show up, you have an advantage that no one's going to have over you.
Yeah,
Any
that
of this change over the years, like without disclosing age,
Yeah.
you talked about, 20, 30 years ago,
Yeah.
pre-cell phones, right? Today, most of those relationships are maintained on LinkedIn, text
Yes.
messages, right? It's really easy if you want, it's really easy, it's very
Yep.
accessible. Um, is it different today than it was before all this technology, when everyone were on one hand in the office, but
Yep.
anyone who's not in the office was much harder to communicate with?
Where I think it's different. I think it's much easier today because in the past, your network tended to be the people if you go to an office, the people you saw all the time, the people you were around all the time. But nowadays, your network could be anything through, to your point, LinkedIn, texting, email. You could stay in touch with people. I'm on the East Coast. I could easily network with people in California on the West Coast. And through even what we're doing right now, if I want to talk to someone visually, that's a friend of mine or a professional colleague, we could say, hey, let's have a Zoom call. That wasn't something that existed in the past. So if, back, call it 90s or 2000, whatever that, those timeframes are, if you wanted to connect with someone on the West Coast, it was a phone call. There was no visual and it was kind of a planned thing. Now you could be spontaneous. I think it's much easier to connect now. But on the flip side, it's easier to have these little cursory touch feelers, but they're not really connecting. You're just throwing something out. And I get that from a lot of people through LinkedIn. You'll get this, it's like almost a transactional type of communication and you feel it and you know it. That's not really networking to me. That's just like it feels like you're one of many people they're reaching out to in a batch type of email. And so
Let's
there's a downside to that.
let's double click on this. What you're saying, you're talking about the difference between relationships and
Mm-hmm.
messaging that is part of a relationship
Yep.
versus transactional, opportunistic reach out that
Yes.
is not part of a relationship.
Yep.
Where do you draw the line between the two?
It's a great question because there was a point in time, and Noah and I have talked about this at time, where anyone who wanted to connect, anyone who wanted to talk, you open yourself up to that. That takes time. That takes an investment. When you're doing that, there's things that you are sacrificing, whether it's what you're doing professionally, whether it's time with your family. There is a sacrifice in how you're managing your time. Over the years, as I get to know more and more and more and more people, and there's more people in my circle, and this I don't know how this is going to sound or how it's going to come out. You start to realize who the people that genuinely are connecting with you and have an interest in you and really kind of care or have a concern about you versus transactional or kind of takers who only pop into your life when they kind of want something, whether it's a piece of information, whether they need help, whether it's whatever. And you kind of know that this is going to be a one-way street. You're going to pop in, you're going to ask me for some stuff, I'm going to help you, you'll say thank you, and then you'll disappear again. And then maybe when I reach out a month or two, I might get a quick response back, but we don't have that deep connection. So to answer your question, over a period of time, you start to sift out who are kind of takers and transactional and who are relationship builders that you're continuing to have a long-term relationship. But I do want to say one thing. That doesn't mean you don't engage with people that are that kind of in that taker mode. They might just be in a bad spot where they kind of just need help, transactional help, because they're dealing with something. So, but once you start sifting that, that is very helpful.
That's a very interesting perspective, I have to say, Sean, that how you approach the takers. Because I think I got burnout. I'm not using the word burnout a lot, but I felt like I burn out by the takers. And I actually got an advice from a person that was one of the best connectors I've ever known. And she said, you have to learn to say no to all the people that ask to meet with you. Give them 15 minutes of your time. That's fine. You get permission from me. You cannot meet with every person for an hour on coffee. You
Yep.
will burn out, and you cannot do that. And with that, also not bringing that frustration that there are a lot of people, as when you are a connector, that people will want your time.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, something I'm sitting sometimes with is that when you are exposed to get to know a lot of people, and some of us, like you, it's like it's fun. I'm working in a bigger company, so I get to know more people. But how you take that from getting to know people, I think for me, the craft that I would love to hear from you, how you get that from getting to know a lot of people to maintaining those relationships. What's your secret?
Yeah, there's so a couple. I just want to go back to one thing you said. The person who gave you the advice about, hey, you give them 15 minutes, but you can't say yes to everyone. I follow a similar thing. If I know someone's kind of a taker, I'm going to answer the phone. I will help them. It'll be like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then I move on. Someone that I'm more invested in, let's say two people call me and they're like, hey, Sean, I'm really looking for a job. I do this, that, the other. You know me really well. Do you know of anyone that you can kind of connect me with, or maybe have someone who has a need? The first person who might be a taker, I might be like, hey, yeah, here's this company I think I know is looking for someone, or that company. Here you go. And you kind of have that 15 minutes and you help them and they're on their way. The person that I would invest in, or I know invest in me, it's a bit more where, okay, let's talk about your match. Oh, by the way, hey, the person I'm going to connect you with, I'll send them a message from myself to, hey, I'd like you to meet so and so. I get a bit more involved because I know that's a person that we have a stronger relationship that continues to develop. The other person I'm going to help, but it's a short duration. So just building on what you said, going back to your question, I think it's as much as it's kind of natural, it also has to be intentional. And by that I mean so for me it's a natural thing, but there's things I do on purpose. And these might sound silly. Almost every morning when I get up, and this is going to sound nutty, there's two things I'll look at. I'll look at LinkedIn real quick and Facebook, not to check on people's statuses, whatever. I actually just see is it anyone's birthday today. And if it is, I actually get a lot of joy out of not, if I'm not super tight with you, I might put something on LinkedIn, hey, happy birthday or whatever, or send a personal message in LinkedIn. But if I know you really well and we talk on the phone or whatever, 9 times out of 10, I'll send you a text because that's more personal. It might be a funny type thing, but that's important to me because it shows people you're caring, you're on their mind, you're showing up and being present in a moment in their life. That is something I do. The other thing is I try throughout the week to make sure I'm touching like 5 people in that day. And I don't mean like you're walking through your office, you stop by someone's desk and you talk to them. That's part of work to me. But what I try to look at is, hey, who haven't I spoken to in a while? Who haven't I connected with? And I just add them to that week. And it might not be a long thing. It might be a text like, hey, you got 15 minutes to catch up. Just want to see what's going on, or I'll update you with me. And it's a quick 15 minutes, but you're in their life and they're in your life. And that builds and it builds and it builds. And it also, you learn a lot. Like, because you live your life and you live it your way. As you're connecting with other people, you see how others live. You see how they approach things. You see challenges they have that actually will put your life in a better context sometimes. Be like, man, I thought I had it rough. I'm now trying to help someone else through a really tough time. And it makes you really appreciate what you have. So I don't know if I answered everything, but you have to be intentional about it. And one last thing, and then I'll pause. You can't, this is how I view it. If you reach out to your network with the intention of, I want something from you, I need something from you, I'm going to get something from you, that is very transparent. And that is actually, that is that transactional relationship that a lot of people will shut down versus just the more conversations you have. It might be you talk to one person that leads to something three people away from you that you don't even know. Next thing you're getting a phone call from someone that led to one conversation that was very far removed from that person. So it's, you can't do it with the desire to get something. It has to be, in my opinion, done with a good heart to try to help, and it comes back.
I'm dying to ask you,
Yes.
how many text messages are you getting on your birthday?
That's a good question. I actually get a lot. I get a lot. And some of them are very, very funny, like very funny. Yes, I get a lot. The my other thing back when I used to work at Black and Decker or even Shark Ninja on people's birthday, if we were going out to celebrate, I'd buy them the nastiest shot. And I could tell you it's been returned to me in many, many times on my birthday in those times when I was working in offices. So
Yeah.
all these little moments are critical. And by the way, it's birthdays, it's holidays, it's Mother's Days, it's Thanksgiving, it's Father's Days. I mean, it doesn't take long just to say, who are all the folks I know that I'm going to send a quick message to?
No, it makes sense.
Those connecting is very important.
He's really good at that. He never misses on anything, I have to say. And I always um, at awe at his ability to just remember when I think about all the people that Sean probably knows. And I will just share that the context is that Sean is coming from sales, but I don't think you use a sales, like you don't use a CRM to maintain all
I
those
don't.
relationships. And I know how many people try to create systems to maintain those relationships with no success. Um, Ofir, I'm going to give Sean a moment to breathe. And I really want to ask you because you work in a global experience. What are maybe the two sides of the challenges and the values of what we heard from Sean? How do you approach that to build relationships?
I think when you go globally, there are a couple of opportunities slash excuses, depends on how you want to look at this, that are a little bit different, right? And I think even, you know, even in when you live in the US, different regions have different kind of culture or habits. But first, the most common excuse that kind of detract people from kind of maintaining those relationships is the time zone difference, right? Well, by the time that I wake up, it's already afternoon there, or the opposite. So like it's more challenging, objectively, more challenging to find time for this 15 minutes call, right? So you have to be even more intentional in this. The second part is cultural differences. Different countries in Europe, in Asia, they are very different from the way that, like, from one another and from the way that we're doing business in America, right? If we're talking about context of meeting people, doing business, and then building the relationship and maintaining the relationship, different habits and different cultures of how to do it, and it's on you to make the effort to understand how business is done and how communication is done in each region. Um, what you know, what we're usually doing here in America, in some places, will feel very aggressive. The generosity that you mentioned before, even to the takers, but also the kind of the aggressiveness of those takers is perceived differently in different places.
Hmm.
So you really need to be conscious of who's the person on the other side, what's their background, where they're coming from culturally, not just from the role, and around that to build those relationships. Some places, if it's different social media platforms that are more common, different texting platforms that are more common. So you have to be more intentional to understand the other side when they're in a different country, and to be more intentional in doing this as far as kind of obstacles like time zone and stuff like that.
I remember, Ofir, when one of your people came here to the US and he explained to me that I think in Ireland and the UK, you don't drink after work, like what we see in the US.
That's in
Because
Ireland. That's the
in
guys in
Ireland,
Ireland.
right? Because when you drink, you really drink and you don't go just for one drink.
The statement was there is no such thing as one drink. Either you drink or you don't.
That's
Yeah.
the Irish.
Yeah, so those are things that you also need to understand as a leader. If you take your people for a drink, what will be their response depends on the country they are from.
In some places, people, in America, it's very common to go for a drink after work. In some places, people just want to go home after work. And when you ask them to go for a drink, like even if when you travel and you're with them, they see it as not necessarily offensive, but they don't appreciate it as much because they just want to go home because that's what kind of the culture is. So it's really important to understand where you're going, both with customers when you meet them and with employees in your companies.
Yeah, and I actually find that, earlier in my career at that time, like if I take the Black and Decker DeWalt time frame, it was very much we were all young, we all kind of grew up together, but after work, socially going out was a big thing. To your point right now, even in the US, after work, there people want to head home, and even I'm going to sound old here, but even some of the younger folks, it's almost like, oh, wait a minute, that's an extension of work time. That doesn't allow me to go home and enjoy my life. I'm now on the clock with my boss at a restaurant now having a drink. It's very different. So I also would say, as someone who's a networker, you have to be conscious of that. So with that, actually, at my last company, I would actually do more like, hey, does anyone want to grab lunch? Or just start talking and networking to people during lunch or during the day, because you are at work, but realizing that some of the younger folks after work, they're heading, they want to go do their own deal. They don't want to go and have dinner or drinks with me. But
I think this is significantly different post-COVID.
yes, that's another one.
Yeah, it's really changed it, and with the younger generation and post-COVID, this combination,
Yep.
they want to finish their work. They'll work hard all day, but they want to go home at the end of the day to do, whether being with your families or doing their own personal things. They don't want to stay with their peers. But this is where it's different when you do it within the workplace environment, whether it's your peers or your employees, or whether you do it with people that are external connections, right? Your friends,
Mhm.
like, okay, you moved on to the next company, but you keep those relationships. Then they see it as a social interaction, and they have no problem staying after work because it's not
Yes.
work.
Yep. The other thing I was going to mention, and it was something you said that made me think about this. And Noah, you and I have spoke about this. I try to visualize a conversation with two people and to me, it's a transference of energy with like red being warm, you're giving energy, blue being kind of cold, you're kind of taking energy. So what I'm saying that is, if you are actively trying to talk to people, network, be more present with other folks, you have to ask yourself, hey, in these conversations, am I bringing the energy? Like, am I someone that they will enjoy talking to, and they're going to leave there feeling, man, I feel more positive. And I don't have to consciously think of that, but I'm just thinking out loud here. Versus if you are a person that tends to be more like kind of complains, kind of takes energy, you're going to have a hard time networking, because you might not even realize, like, man, people aren't calling me back, people aren't engaging with me. And you have to ask yourself, what am I giving that person in the conversation versus what am I receiving? So if what you're doing is kind of putting your problems on them, you're going to find a lot of people that, like, I got my own problems, and they
Yeah.
back out. Versus if when you're talking to people, you guys are brainstorming, you're interested in the world, you're excited, they're feeling like you're energizing them, and then they're energizing you. That, I think, is a component of it.
Yeah, push
So,
versus pull, push
yes.
versus pull. And I think, we use the word networking, but maybe we should clarify that we don't talk about, I'm just going, giving my business card or QR code your LinkedIn,
Yep.
and I want to get business from you or promotion from you or whatever it is. It's really about how do we build relationships and the reason we really wanted to talk with you, it's not just one-time conversation, and sometimes there are one-time conversations.
Mhm.
That's okay as well, but how do we maintain and sustain those relationships? And that's a real craft, and that's not percent networking for just one-time transactional experience. And I wanted to ask you a question, but I forgot. So I'm
I
going
have
to
a
commit
question
to
for Sean. Is there a time where you say to yourself, it's time to disengage from this relationship?
Yep. Yes. And it actually becomes more of when I evaluate the relationship over a period of time. Or look, we're all human. There are times when I kind of call people and I do need some help. I need like some advice. I need whatever, like a lend a hand on something. And I realize they're not there. Like they don't want to engage in that way. And it might happen once, might happen twice. And it's not like they're not a good friend or whatever. I realize, okay, we have a different expectation in our relationship, and I'll just slowly move away. Not in an insulting way. There's no big conversation. I just realized, okay, that's someone I can't go to for that type of help or need. And sometimes I'll just naturally gravitate away because there's others in my network that can give me that type of help or whatever. And particularly if it's a constant type of pattern, because there is only limited time. There's limited energy you have. There's limited investment you could have in all these folks. And you just have to understand who wants that investment and who doesn't. And transparently, especially as I've moved up and up and up in my career and your network gets wider and wider and wider, you start to evaluate things a little differently. So that's been a big one.
Yeah, and I want to mention that Sean is an executive, so no excuses that you can say that he doesn't have time. He doesn't have
Oh,
time, and he maintains the relationships. And the question I wanted to ask you before and came back while you were talking is that the two of you entered the new organizations, and there has to be some approach of how you navigate the network of relationship when you join a new organization. So if there are leaders or even young people listening to us and want to figure out what they do, because right now the economy, a lot of people looking for jobs or starting new jobs, how would you suggest or mentor people around that space?
about new folks coming into an organization or looking for new opportunities,
New,
like for their
yeah,
first opportunity.
whatever you think is important to mention for leaders trying to
Yeah.
navigate network to build relationships for promotion or in the organization to start from scratch.
Yeah, so I'll break it into two things. As someone as a professional going into a new organization, like Ophir, I know you as well. I think the first thing is you got to come in with humility. If you come in like, yep, I was hired as this level, I know all this stuff, and you're not investing in learning the company, the people, the history of why certain decisions were made, because you have to be respectful. You know, there are reasons why a company is where they are with the day you show up, and you have to honor the folks that kind of got you there and understand why, why they're at that stage. It's important because then you're coming in and you're almost complimenting the folks that have gotten it to that point, and you're making yourself part of that while you're understanding. Because to me, the first 30 or 60 days is kind of the listening, the learning, the evaluating, not coming in and telling people that have been doing something for a while how to do it. You will burn the relationships versus foster new ones. Um, Regarding like people just starting to try to figure out their work path, as particularly after college or something. My middle son is actually graduating on Wednesday in computer science and AI and machine
Congrats.
learning and all that stuff. And one of the things that I've been explaining to him, his brain is not networked or is not wired for utilizing the resources around him to help him. So I'm like, hey, Connor, you have me who has a lot of folks. Like, I don't know exactly everything you want to do, but if you just give me a one pager of what would you like to do ideally and how would you describe it, then as I'm speaking to folks, I can say, hey, my son's graduating. This is what he would like to do because I want it in your words versus me trying to summarize it. Then I could socialize that in places that I believe, and so can my brother. So I would say to young folks, instead of, man, I got to rely on recruiters or I got to rely on LinkedIn or I got to scour wherever to apply for whatever, take a step back. And again, I'm talking young, you're graduating out of college, and say to yourself, okay, who are my friends? What do their parents do? And actually see if you could spend some time. If you have parents that are in a field or let's say you want to get into sales and there's three parents that sell all different types of things, ask if you could talk to them for 30 minutes to an hour and show an interest in what they're doing, explain what you're trying to do. People have networks all around them. They just either don't realize it, they're embarrassed to plug in, they feel like they're going to bother somebody. You never know until you try. And if you get rejected, so what? You get rejected, but it's better than just having this thing in your head and you never know.
It's a
So
good practice.
it's amazing how much people want to help once you kind of put yourself out there and say, hey, this is the type of help I need, particularly someone new coming out of college. That's and it separates you from what everybody else is kind of doing right now.
And people have to talk about themselves also.
All the time, all the time. The other thing I would say, and this is a little different for young kids or anyone looking for a job, you also have to remember if you're in a mode of a job hunt and you're reaching out to people and they're not getting back to you, they have jobs. They're busy. They have other things in their world that they're doing. Don't take it as a rejection or they don't have interest. Just be respectful that they have things in their day and you might have to ping them again a week later, but just give them the courtesy of knowing they have things going on versus what you have going on is the most important thing to you. So you have to put all those things in context.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I want to go back to the first part of the question. I think, as Sean said, it's really important to come in and understand that you don't know anything, or maybe you have the professional background and experience, but you don't know anything about this company, right? So you need to learn how the company operates, what the company is doing, and such. Really important in two levels to build those relationships. First, try to meet as many people as possible, not just in your org, but cross-functional across the company. Try to understand their priorities, their challenges. Very common that you come across a clash of priorities, and if you don't have understanding of what other people in other functions are experiencing, going through, what are the priorities that are being set to them, it's creating friction that is just from lack of knowledge. So really important to meet, and not just executives, right? Go and meet people that lead different teams, different functions. It doesn't matter what their place in the hierarchy. If they're leading a function that is important to the organization, you should meet with them. You should understand what they're doing, get to know each other, so they also feel comfortable coming to you and ask you questions. They will help you more kind of happily, and they will also be able to get support and help you to really kind of be successful. They'll be more invested in making you successfof. So building this relationship in your team with your peers, but also with the rest of the organization is all of those three phases really make a difference in your ability to build to the future, and then come in and start having a better overall holistic understanding of what the organization is doing, but also where the challenges and opportunities are cross-functionally.
Yeah, if I could add two things to that. One is exactly what you said. The one thing I would add was when I do that, I always end with, how would my role help you?
Yeah.
Because to me, it's always like, I'm asking you this question, but how could this role help you with what you're trying to do? That way you're enrolling them and they're enrolling you in this whole process. And the other piece is, I was thinking back to while you were talking, there was a sales leader when I had started at Black & Decker in DeWalt, and the way I felt about him is the way I try to lead so people would feel about me. Yes, we had numbers, we had goals, we had things we had to accomplish. But what I was really doing, I was very young and junior in my career, and he was the president of sales. I was like, how could what I do make him successful? And that might sound silly, but he had invested in me. So it was like, yeah, I've got to hit my numbers or whatever, but how do I make sure what I'm doing makes him successful? And to me, that is the power. When it's not like someone is working because they have to hit this number, they have to do this, they have to do that, where they're invested in, how can I make that person successful? Because that person is also invested in trying to make me successful. And you're working beyond something, you're working for something beyond just the normal measurements and goals that you have to hit on an annual basis. That's a lot of magic to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Also takes being vulnerable with people. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Tell us more about the vulnerability piece.
Well, if someone's going to invest in you and they're going to take, and I'm talking, Ofir, you had mentioned it's just not the level you're at, it's every level of the company. So if people are going to invest in you, well, you have to give them something to invest in, which is you have to open yourself up so they know who you are. You can't, in my opinion, this is the way I look at it. If you walk around like this figurehead that is intimidating and walks around the halls and only engages when you need something and blah, 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 you know what? People are going to avoid you. They're not going to want to talk to you. You're like Darth Vader. Versus if you're walking around interested in what people are doing and not just the work, them, their family, if they have pictures of their kids on there, asking about their kids. I mean, these are genuine. I would never tell anyone to fake these, but the more you take an interest in people's lives, because if we just talk work for a second, people probably spend more time at work than they do truly with their families. So when you're acknowledging and appreciating that and asking them about their world, that's a shift change. Now, I'm not saying everyone's open to that. And you have to recognize some people are like, look, I'm here for work, not to be your buddy. Okay, that's great. But if you can inject some of that and also share of yourself,
Yeah.
that's the vulnerability part.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to maybe the first question of be yourself. And when you try to take the systems that you just shared and do that like a robot, people feel the red
Yes.
or blue or whatever energy that like that someone is trying to manipulate them. We are animals. We smell when people
Yes.
manipulate us or try to use systems that are not authentic or they don't come from vulnerability, and we just push them. So I do want to put here that everything that we all share, in the end, you need to figure out who you are as a human being and how you do that. Because if it's going to be like a robot, people will not respond well to you. We
Part
feel,
of it is consistency, right? If you
Yes.
just come and make an act that you care about them, but then
Mhm.
2 months down the road you don't care about anyone, people pick up on this very quickly. You really need to be going back. I think we're going back all the time to the authentic part that you
Yeah.
mentioned at the beginning. People pick up on this, right? And if you're really authentic, they will open to you, they will be vulnerable to you, they will want and cheer for you and want you to be successful. And then you really create meaningful connections across the organization that can help the company be successful and all the individuals in the company to be successful. And
Yeah,
this
you're
eventually builds those relationships that stay when people leave because there is something meaningful there between you and them.
100%. Here's an easy example. I think all three of us relate to this. When you haven't seen someone on LinkedIn in a while, and all of a sudden you're seeing them every day pop up and post something, I normally look at it like, all right, they must be looking for a job. Something must be going on because their pattern has absolutely changed. And you could see it, you could sense it, and quickly you could feel it. And it's similar to what you're saying.
Yeah.
that's a good one, and people should pay attention to what you just said.
100%.
So we are getting into that wrapping out part, and in that part, we take a moment to reflect on the conversation, and each one of us shares one key takeaway that we take from the conversation today. Sounds good, Sean? Ready to play with us?
I am. Can I add just one thing before we do that?
No.
Just one thing. I was thinking about you know, the other thing to me is you have to, this is how I feel. As I can't say you have to, but this is just how it is for me. I don't know if you remember that movie Hitch with oh my gosh, Will Smith. He was basically a matchmaker, him and Margaret Robbie.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so they were matchmakers.
Yeah.
When I look at my connections, network, any of that stuff, if someone calls me, whether they need help, whatever, my mind is quickly almost cataloging, well, wait a minute, who do I know in my world that I can connect them with that can help them with either figuring out something, help them with whatever problem they're trying to achieve, or if they're trying to get into a particular field. I'm constantly like, how can I bring these folks together? Because I feel they can get value in a conversation with each other. And I think for me anyway, that's a big part of it. It's I get nothing out of it except the joy of connecting some folks. Or even when recruiters call, I'm like, hey, that's not for me, but I'll give you three other people. And by the way, call me if you ever need anything because I got a ton of people I'd like to recommend. So I'm saying that because I think it's important to look at it from the standpoint of not what can I get, but how can I help people? And I think if you approach it in that way, things will grow very quickly and you're not even going to realize it because you're putting a lot out there. So anyway, I just wanted to say that part.
Love your energy. Yeah. So, who wants to play first? Key takeaways from the conversation today.
I can start because you know, I'm going with this authentic and generous. These two words are kind of going throughout this conversation. Um, really important to be authentic. Really easy to call on someone who's faking it. And I'm really taking the approach of generosity even to the takers. That's something that I wouldn't think about naturally. And I'm definitely taking this with me from this conversation.
That was really cool. Yeah.
Cool. I'll go and for me it's you have to be intentional about it until it becomes something that's natural. Just like if you're working out and you're lifting, you're going to start off, it's going to be very challenging, you're going to be not as strong, but if you just stay consistent with it daily, you're going to find in 30 days your network is going to grow and you're going to start getting opportunities and conversations that you never would have gotten in the past. So I think being consistent, being genuine about it, intentional. And I'll give you another thing I do. I try almost every day to connect with 2 to 5 people on LinkedIn. Just throw out an invite. And not like some strangers, but it could be a connection of a friend or a connection of this, because the more you put out, the more you do receive. So, and whether it's LinkedIn or whether it's something else. So intentionality with a good heart to me is very important.
Yeah. And it's funny, Ofir, I thought you're gonna say that, but I went with value because Ofir is all about is in customer success space. So it's always about what's the value. So I think I stayed with what is the value that I can bring to people's life. And it comes for me with not again that transactional of like, how can I bring them value so they will give something to me? But how can I learn and be curious about how can I bring them value? And that's a different conversation from one person to another to really understand that. So it's the value, but not from transactional space, but from that curiosity. And for me, that moment when I said, hey, you worked in really big organizations, and you said, yes, but it allowed me to get to know so many people. I think this is the main distinction between, oh, that's exhausting, that's not fun, that's transaction, to the value and curiosity. So thank you for that inspiration, Sean. I learned a ton from you today.
Oh, really?
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I will say, Noah, based off of one thing that you said, or some of the things you said, I would also say that, you know, there are people that it's exhausting to network. And I think or to put yourself out there and reach out. And I think, and I'm going to be an Enneagram person for a second. I worked with 2 people that were Enneagram ones, which are more like they're task focused, like they want to get something done. Noah, you'd be able to explain it way more than me.
No, I'm not good with Enneagram, actually.
To them it's almost like a chore to do that. But I think the important thing for people to ask themselves is, well, why would you be doing it? If you think you're doing it because I just need something, but I don't need something right now, so I don't need to do it, that's not necessary. I wouldn't necessarily encourage people to look at it that way. The way I would encourage people to look at it, no, when you said this is what triggered me, is if you're in a pursuit of constantly wanting to learn or improve yourself, you could stay in your lane and try to do it on your own. But all the folks around you, they all have unique pieces of knowledge. The more you could have conversation and plug into some of their knowledge, you're just going to add more tools to your toolbox. So you could look at reaching out as, oh, it's a chore, but you could also look at it as a self-development tool to help yourself learn more versus podcast. And I mean, you could do all these other things, you know, podcasts, AI tools, whatever, but you have humans around you that can help you. And a lot of them would like to. And that's another way to look at it too. So anyway.
Yeah. So with that, we hope that this podcast episode will be shared with any person in this network so people can have a good conversation, not with their ChatGPT to say, hey, tell me how I can do that, as Sean explained in 3 bullet points, but to share that with their teams, with their peers, with their kids, with their grandparents, and have a good peer conversation like we had here today. Ofir, seems like you want to say something.
Yeah, Sean, you need to share this episode with every person that have a birthday.
There you go. Yes. And they're going to know my tricks. They're going to be like, you don't remember it all in your head. You just get an alert or you check it every day.
There is network with value. So Sean, thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule to be with us. And I hope people got what they need from this conversation. And thank you both for a great, meaningful, intentional, with value conversation. Cheers.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, guys. This was great. Really appreciate it. This was fun. And that, by the way, that hour flew by quickly.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the conversation with Sean as much as Ofir and I did, please share it with a friend, with family member, or your team, and just have a good conversation reflecting on what we shared here. And this is what we call the peer ripples. That's what this podcast is all about. And we do have a favor to ask you. If you can like, subscribe, and share this podcast with other people, that will be much appreciated. This is how Ofir and I know to keep the material interesting for you. We hope to see you next time. Cheers.